So it's about 1 week removed from Super Bowl 51, and thank goodness it was actually a memorable Super Bowl. Actually, I think that only might be the case because I haven't watched a Super Bowl in like 5 years, honestly. Like, the last Super Bowl I remember watching was the Cardinals and the Steelers, and hell, I don't even remember when that was. But whether you watched the game or not, you heard plenty about the incredible comeback that the New England Patriots had in the second half, and I guess a little bit in the first half when they scored 3. Not really a big deal, but they came back and they won it, so Tom Brady could get his 5th Super Bowl championship of his career, which I don't know a lot about football, but that's pretty damn good because, hell, even the Blackhawks don't have 5 championships at this point. So honestly, even though I am a self-proclaimed non-football fan, and I have been for years, this Super Bowl really stuck in my mind, and I guess not for the best kind of reasons. I mean, yes, it's really cool, all the stories behind it, all the great headlines. Of course, being, wanting to be a journalist, I really thrive on that kind of stuff. But the thing that I am really thinking about is sort of in correlation to a lot of other major sports and wondering sort of the main question, are major league sports, especially championships, rigged? And of course, everybody comes up with this question at one point or another when their team loses in the championship and they're like, oh, it's completely rigged, I don't, blah, blah, blah. They just want to make an excuse as to why they didn't win and apparently their team underperformed. But I do not have a horse in this race or really any other sport besides in hockey, so I can give you kind of a completely unbiased report. And that is what I'm going to do today, because there is a lot of evidence behind how 2016 championships were fairly rigged. So let's talk about the Super Bowl. So the Super Bowl was held between the Atlanta Falcons and the New England Patriots. Now, I don't know if it's different for football fans. Maybe you look at these teams differently than I do, but I see these teams as sort of like the Patriots are one everybody knows and either you love or you hate, and the Falcons are sort of one that falls by the wayside. If you're into hockey like I am, you would know that that team is sort of like the Buffalo Sabres a few years back. Nobody really knows about them. They're sort of kind of just drifting through, not really too great, but apparently they're really great. So that was unbeknownst to me until they made the Super Bowl. So there we have that. And the New England Patriots are sort of your team that has always been really good. I guess you could say the Chicago Blackhawks in like about the past 10 years or 6, so whatever. Been pretty good, pretty bandwagony, I guess you could say. They are a very popular team and people are willing to like them because they're good. And I'm definitely not going to attack people who do that because I could make a whole other video about this, but sports are about emotions and it's about having fun, and nobody wants to have fun while, suffering with a team. Anywho, though, these teams are 2 completely different teams from 2 completely different markets, and that is where the basis of this entire argument comes from. So generally, when you're walking down the street, do you see more Falcons fans or do you see more Patriots fans? Okay, granted, we probably all see more Cowboys fans than anything, but between those 2, who do you see more of? Personally, I see more New England fans. And I know that New England is a more popular team, even though I'm not even involved in the NFL. Yes, I know that they're a popular team. So what does that mean? If they win the Super Bowl, that means there are way more people willing to not only bandwagon them, but also people who are already diehard fans. So what do those 2 people mean? Those 2 people mean money, because those are going to be people who are going to go to the parade, going to go buy more tickets for next season, going to buy merchandise, all this kind of stuff. They are all contributing money to the league and to the team, which is, in case you don't know, that's kind of how sports all revolve. They revolve on fans' money and sort of fans' views. Now, if the Falcons would have won, yes, you would have had people go buy merchandise, go to the parade, go and do all this stuff, but do you really think it would be the same amount of people as it would if the Patriots won? No, absolutely not, because especially the area that New England covers is the New England area, I guess I should say specifically, is a very big tourist area, so there's going to be a lot of people going through there, and maybe they'll pass by and be like, hey, you know what? Let's buy this Patriots stuff as a souvenir, or they'll be there and they'll go attend to the parade, or they'll go spend money somehow that will contribute to the Patriots. Less people are going to be in Atlanta and happen to have the chance to spend money there. Not to mention, there are plenty of people in that area that are willing to bandwagon, as I said before, which, again, not a problem at all. Bandwagoning is a natural part of life, and it makes us money and keeps our sports around. But don't think I am just centering my entire argument around the NFL because there were multiple other Major League sports that did the same exact thing this year. So let's start off with Major League Baseball, which was probably one of the best headlines of 2016. Yes, the Chicago Cubs ended their 108 World Series championship drought, and it was in spectacular fashion in the 10th inning in Game 7 against the Cleveland Indians. And while I personally was not rooting for the Cubs because I'm a jerk and I like the Giants, I still think it was a great story, and I think it was really good for the league and for the Cubs. Again, why? Well, because the Cubs are super popular. The Cubs, great. Now I'm from Boston, I like the Cubs. So the Cubs are a super popular team. I gotta say, they gotta be in the top 3 most popular teams behind, I can't speak today, behind possibly the Red Sox and the Yankees, which are, surprise, surprise, sort of in that New England-ish area. So the Cubs are really popular. So again, like I said, for the Patriots, they are going to, get a lot more money than, let's say, if the Cleveland Indians won. But then again, there's another argument for that because the Indians, Cleveland, Cleveland is so insane for their sports team, so they're going to get a lot of dedication there. However, compared to the Cubs in Chicago, I really don't know if there's not much of a comparison there because there's a lot of people who like the Cubs. Even my mom. My mom had she watched baseball, I guess 10 years ago or so. She worked with a team and all that and never really cared much about baseball, but this postseason or last postseason, she loved the Cubs, and she even bought an Anthony Rizzo shirt, or more rather, my dad and I bought it for her. But still, that's another, scenario in which if that would not have happened, if they wouldn't have won, we would not have spent, that $20 on that shirt. So that's $20 going to the league and to the team. Now, would that have happened if it would have been the Indians? No. Specifically in my case, no. Let's also not forget that the Cubs won in a spectacular fashion. They, much like the Patriots, came back after being down. I think they were down 3-1, which, ooh, a 3-1 lead, doesn't that sound very familiar? Okay, we will move on to that soon, but I think it's the essence of having a 7-game series, because this is one thing that is different than the NFL, is you keep people hooked. You are getting more ratings, and probably more people are participating and getting excited. Gives more people time to buy your merchandise and go to games. I mean, maybe people who weren't willing to go to a Game 3 are willing to go to a Game 7. Hell yeah, I'm not going to miss out on this opportunity. It couldn't go either way. So you get so many more opportunities to get money from that. So smart idea if you're rigging it to have the Indians win a few and then have the Cubs come back because the Cubs are the better story and are going to make you more money in the long run. Perfect idea and perfect scenario if you're trying to be a business, trying to make the most money possible. So on to blowing the 3-1 lead that everybody likes to talk about and make fun of, regardless of if you're a basketball fan or not. Yes, the Golden State Warriors, who are on top of the NBA standings and only lost 9 games in the season, had fallen to the Cleveland Cavaliers after having a 3-1 lead in the finals. What a storyline, honestly. So just like I said about the Indians, Cleveland is insane about their sports. I mean, everybody, I think, in Cleveland and a little bit of the surrounding areas is probably going to go nuts for this sports team and go nuts for the Cavs when they win. So you're going to make a lot of money off that, aren't you? Especially because Cleveland, as I read in a book that is currently on my shelf that I don't think you can see, it's about, I think it's called The True Life of Sports Fans. Really great read, very interesting, told from the point of view of a San Jose Sharks fan, so I really enjoy it. Talks about Cleveland specifically and how basically their entire economy is run around sports. So maybe, I don't know, was Cleveland struggling economically at the time, so this would give them a boost in their economy? I can't think of a better city to rig this in favor of than Cleveland, honestly, because while yes, other cities, their teams are very, very popular, this city really, the city itself is a sports team. They are just all about sports, and it's really cool. So not only are they deserving, it was a really great story, but you're also going to get that revenue in, which is always really great. Again, that's sort of the theme of this entire video is money, money, money. And going back to that 3-1 lead, I mean, you have the Golden State Warriors. They sort of look like they have it in hand, and you know, we've made it to 4 games, and you know, you think you're going to end in 4, and then all of a sudden it doesn't, and all of a sudden you've made it to 7, and you're making money off game 5, 6, and 7, on account of already 1, 2, 3, and 4. So, money on top of money on top of money, you are just making countless amounts of revenue. Now, what would have happened if Golden State would have won? Yeah, he would have made a lot of money. There's a lot of people in the Bay Area, probably lots of other places in California who either want to attack local teams where they are, or don't care about the local teams where they are and like Golden State instead, that would be willing to go support and buy stuff for Golden State. So, I mean, you got plenty of people who support both teams, but in this scenario, I think it was a lot about the story, like the headline of LeBron going back and also just it being Cleveland. I think that made them be the favorites in this and would be a very good reason for someone to rig this series in their favor. And finally, on to the NHL, which is probably the least convincing argument of all of these. But I still figured I'd throw it in there because not all sports are innocent. I thought it would be cheap of me to, you know, not include my favorite league, or I guess my favorite, like, professional, major league, in here and be like, no, hockey's perfect, they don't, you know, rig anything. No, okay, let's be real. The 6-game series between Pittsburgh and San Jose that broke my heart because it was my new favorite team against the team I'd grown up watching, yes, it could very well be rigged. So, for those of you who are watching and don't really know much about hockey, if I just said Pittsburgh Penguins, who would you think of? Would you think of Sidney Crosby? Because chances are a lot of people know Sidney Crosby and that's who they would think of. Because yes, Sidney Crosby is the best player in the league and quite possibly the best player in the world. So, I mean, what other better storyline do you have than, you know, the best player in the world wins his 2nd championship? Sort of sounds like Tom Brady winning his 5th now, doesn't it? Since becoming a team in 1994, it was the Sharks' first time making it to the finals, which sort of makes it, you know, a little storybook kind of scenario for it. You know, they're sort of the hero, Pittsburgh is the villain, you want them to win. And so it was very nice just seeing the Sharks there and seeing some very deserving guys, some very deserving older guys, I should say, in Joe Thornton and Patrick Marleau, and even, I guess, sort of there in Joe Pavelski, who's only 30, but he's, you know, getting up there. He's sort of in the same league of great players who really deserve a Stanley Cup. So this was a really great story for, I think, not only just San Jose fans, but for fans everywhere, because hey, you know what, although I might be a partial Blackhawks fan, you know, it's nice to see other teams do well and other players do well. Everybody likes a good story or a good headline. So I think everybody was pretty pleased with San Jose at least making it, and I guess if you weren't necessarily a San Jose fan, you were kind of okay with them losing it too, because guess what? In the end of it all, the better story, I guess, of winning was if the best player in the entire world got his 2nd championship. I mean, let's face it, Pittsburgh's more popular than San Jose is. And, you know, there's a lot more people that like Crosby than Joe Pavelski, Thornton, or any of them. So, you know, when Pittsburgh wins it, you're going to make a lot more money. I mean, that's, as I've said this entire video, you're going to make every single winner from these championships, when you look at it, they're probably going to make more money when they win the championship. Because already as it is, I think Crosby's the #1 selling jersey at NHLShop.com. And are there any Sharks on that list? Honestly, I haven't checked it in like 2 years, but I don't think they're going to be as high as Crosby. Because here I am, I don't have a single Sharks jersey, but I'm pretty sure I have like 4 Crosby ones. So that's enough, you know, sort of, I'm a prime example of, I was probably going to be one of those people. If I would have stayed a Pittsburgh fan, yeah, I would have been one of those people buying a Crosby jersey with a little championship patch on it. And in this one, unlike the other ones, which I think makes it, I guess, a little bit less exciting and makes a little bit less money than the other ones, is the fact that this did not go to 7 games and it was kind of not a comeback at all. San Jose sort of was flat the entire time and they came back for only 2 games, but, you know, those were sort of comebacks, but not really, because they didn't win, and yeah, so Not quite the same formula as the rest of them, but that might have been because it was the least watched Stanley Cup final in quite a while. So I don't think the NHL thought that dragging this on to 7 games was going to make them any more money than if they just put the dagger in right now, twisted it, and had Sidney Crosby named the Conn Smythe winner and the Stanley Cup champion. So the question is, what do you think? Do you think that professional sports, or at least their championships, are somewhat rigged? Do you think they're rigged by Vegas, possibly? By the GMs? By owners? By the league itself? What do you think is going on? Why do you think sort of these great headlines come out? So there's a lot of benefits to these great stories coming out. Comebacks, and for, fifth Super Bowl championship, best player in the world getting his 2nd Stanley Cup, winning it for Cleveland, all these great storylines. I mean, that's stuff for journalists to write about. That's stuff for people to talk about for months. And I mean, obviously it's months removed from plenty of these events, and I'm still talking about it. So this stuff has, all of these championships have a great big impact. So do you think that it was just sort of lucky that we got blessed with these great storylines in these games? Or should I say series? Or do you think there was something else to it? Do you think there's maybe a little bit of tweaking involved, and maybe there's just a little bit of rigging involved? So thank you all for watching. If you are already not, please click subscribe down below. I like to post every 1 to 2 weeks, and I traditionally post hockey videos, although since it is nearly baseball season, I hope to be posting videos about the San Francisco Giants. But as of right now, it is purely hockey-based stuff, so if you're into that, please subscribe. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, let me know everything that you think about what I talked about, or, I hope you all have a good day, evening, morning, whatever it is when you're watching right now. So, farewell.